Hello and welcome to the Naked Audience. Today we are on the letter D. And it looks kind of like an O, but trust me, it's a D. This is straight. This is coived. So, yeah. So I had said that we have a lot to get through here, a lot of really great things. So let's not waste any more time on today's How's my phone? Alright. As always, our trusty Schnittaka is there. Alright, so at the very top here we have David Allen and a couple of his solo records here. Banana Moon, of course, great solo record he did. One of David Bowie's favorite albums, yeah. Nice, okay. And I also have here, Now is the Happiest Time of Your Life. So, what can I say about these albums? Well, Banana Moon, of course, fantastic. Does a nice version of Memories here with Robert Wyatt on vocals. Written by Hugh Hopper, later covered by Whitney Houston. And but lots of other great songs here. Stoned Innocent Frankenstein, fantastic tune. Now It's the Happiest Time of Your Life, another great record. Did a little bit later, songs like Poet for Sale. See You in the Moon Tower is one of my favorite songs off that record. You even hear Orlando Monday Allen on this album. And of course Jilly's on this album as well. Let's keep moving because there's just more David Allen here. Next we have David Allen and Euterpe, album he did in Spain with some Spanish musicians. And Sam Gopal, a Malaysian psychedelic musician, and some great other Spanish musicians. It's a little bit of a mellower album, but that's doesn't matter. It's David Allen. Great songwriting involved. David Allen and Kramer, of course. Mark Kramer. They hooked up originally through New York Gong. And of course Kramer went on to do Bong Water and started the Shimmy Disc record label with lots of great stuff on that label. Did some albums with Hugh Hopper. I just have Who's Afraid on here. There's another album they did together called Hitmen. That's not on my phone right now, but it's a great album. I probably prefer Who's Afraid a little bit more. It's a very melodic, great, interesting songwriting there. Yeah, David Allen and Kramer, great combination there. Then we have the David Allen Trio. Of course, here on the cover you see Robert Wyatt, David Allen, and Mike Ratledge. Hugh Hopper is also on here, so it's kind of like David Allen and his trio. I don't know. But yeah, they did this album way back in '63. And a lot of people think it's just kind of like not that important. I think it's a fun little record. Jazzy, reading his poetry over the jazz there. Let's move on here. Some more David Allen. David Allen Weird Quartet. What can I say about the David Allen Weird Quartet? It's kind of like a super group of sorts, and this is kind of, I don't know if this is technically the last release of his, because I think it was released after the last Gong album with him, I See You. I actually maybe even prefer this record. It's very cool songwriting. What we have, Don Falcone from Spirits Burning, Michael Clare, from University of Errors, another David Allen project. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's Trey Sabatelli from the Tubes on drums, and Paul Sears from the Muffins, an American Canterbury influenced group. But Elevens is just, it's a fantastic record. Dom and Bart, which is Lady Beard. This is sort of an unusual release in that it's called Impressionen 71, or 1971. It was released to look like a great lost krautrock album from the early 70s, but in all actuality it was written in 1988. There's a little bit of different information out there about this album, that it was initially written in the 70s and then recorded in the 80s. I don't know how true that is, but you had, let's see, Erwin Bauer, Bernd Barth, and Tina S. doing some vocals. But it's a very authentic 70s krautrock sounding album. When I first heard it, I was completely in belief that it was an old lost krautrock album from the 70s, but it in fact is not. When you hear it, it doesn't have a lot of those early krautrock qualities to it. But as I was listening to it, I thought, this sounds really way ahead of its time, almost too ahead of its time. But yeah, that turned out, recorded in '88, so that's why it sounds ahead of its time. So, but it's a really fantastic record, very psychedelic, weird, early sounding krautrock. All right, let's go to the UK here for The Damned. I only have their first 3 records here, but The Damned, you gotta have The Damned, right? Classic 70s UK punk. Gosh, who do we have here? We have Dave Vanian on vocals, Captain Sensible, classic dude there. Brian James, Rat Scabies. Rat Scabies is a good punk drummer there, very well known. So yeah, we have The Damned, Damned, Machine Gun Etiquette, and Music for Pleasure. Which one's the best? I don't know. They released many more great albums after this. I tend to find these sort of like the Holy Trinity. But yeah, that's The Damned. Next we have Damon Albarn. Now this comes from a Kinks tribute album. This is Where I Belong, released on Ryko. It is one of the best Kinks tribute albums out there. There are several. This one's really, really good. This one in particular with Damon Albarn, they do they, meaning Damon Albarn and Ray Davies, appears on his own tribute record here. They do a version of Waterloo Sunset. I don't need to say more about that song. It's just one of the greatest Kinks songs ever. Yeah, so that's that. I got the rest of the album on here in bits and pieces. So, yeah, now we have the String Instruments of Vietnam, featuring Nyan Te Dan and Dang Xuan Kai. Yeah, so these two I can just say together. I don't know what this album artwork is about, but this is the original album artwork here, up here at the top. But yeah, classic Vietnamese instruments. The hukin, the little guitar-looking instrument there, looks like has 4 strings, and let's see, there's also the lute. Oh no, maybe that's the lute. Yeah. Yeah, lightning rounds, flustered.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Mixed up. So this is more the lute. What's that called? I can't pronounce this. I don't know how to pronounce Vietnamese words, people. Dan Get.
Dan No Yet.
I don't know, whatever. But it's really great world music. And it's just highly recommended. If you like world music, don't ignore Vietnam. It's wonderful stuff. Daniel Johnston, the late great Daniel Johnston. Here I have Continued Story, one of his most popular recordings, and I just have early recordings, which I highly recommend. 2-disc set, so many songs. Daniel Johnston, Devil and Daniel Johnston documentary, you should check that out if you want more info on him. And of course I have his great version of Unpack Your Adjectives on the Schoolhouse Rocks tribute album. Yeah, Daniel Johnston, Austin, Texas. Totally original guy. Rest in peace, Daniel. All right, next we have, here's Danny Flame. Now, I don't know who Danny Flame is. This is a name that was credited to the song on She Don't Use Jelly EP from the Flaming Lips. Here I just put on the Turn It On bluegrass version featuring the Flaming Buttholes, Flaming Jubilee, or Flaming.
Nochmal von vorne.
One more time, Flaming Buttholes Family Jubilee, why Buttholes? Well, that features Jeff Pincus from the Butthole Surfers and King Coffee, also from the Butthole Surfers. Do a nice long version of Turn It On in a bluegrass form. For whatever reason, the internet decided to give me the Snoop Dogg album cover there. Anyway, let's move on. Dark Angel. This is back from my junior high school thrash days. Dark Angel, very brutal thrash band. I don't really listen to it that much, if at all. I just have it on here for sentimental reasons. Get really sentimental about Dark Angel. But yeah, one of the more brutal thrash bands from that time in the 80s. Okay, next here we have Dashiell Hedayat and Gong. So this is a kind of a Gong project they did. Dashiell Hedayat is, what can I say about him? It's Daniel Theron, a French poet, countercultural activist, writer. The name is a tribute to an American political activist and author, Dashiell Hammett. And the Hedayat comes from Sadegh Hedayat, an Iranian writer. Whatever. This is a great Gong. It's like a Gong record. Very psychedelic and really interesting lyrics. And a lot of Gong completists know all about this record. I recommend it. I think it's fantastic. Next we have David Bowie. What can I tell you about David Bowie that you don't already know, people? I don't have everything on here. I have what I find to be the most important things. Yeah, of course, my favorite era, I don't know, it changes, but, I like the Berlin albums, with Low and Heroes and Lodger, all the work he did with Eno there. That stuff is just incredible. I mean, if you're a hardcore music nerd, you know enough about David Bowie. He got his last album too, which I think is absolutely amazing. Yeah, Scary Monsters, sometimes that's even my favorite, because that is just so killer. Again with Robert Fripp, who was on Heroes, again making an appearance on here. Lodger, there we have some really interesting songs, which is a little bit different than the rest of the Berlin trilogy. Adrian Belew on that record. Pinups, I think people think that album's not so important. I love the way he does these cover songs, all cover tunes. That was like one of the first David Bowie albums I ever heard when I was a really young kid. I think I borrowed it from the library or something. I found the cover to be interesting there. I think that's Angie Bowie on the cover with him, right? But at any rate, yeah, David Bowie. Come on. Look, David Bowie and the Philadelphia Philharmonic doing Peter and the Wolf, the great Prokofiev piece of music there. He narrates the story there. One of the better narrations of that, I think. Not just because it's David Bowie, but because it's David Bowie. Okay, David Hurley, great jazz musician. Outer Nebula, Inner Nebula. What can I tell you about David Hurley? He plays the trumpet, the flute, but he's also just, I think, mainly a drummer. But I highly recommend this record. Just more great jazz stuff. Okay, Dead Kennedys, more punk, back in my punk days. I only got a couple of their essential records on here. Dead Kennedys still doing it out there, but without Jello. How do you how do you listen to Dead Kennedys without Jello Biafra? I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, but East Bay Ray's still with him, you know, and 6025. Ted, you know, the original lineup there. D.H. Peligro was a drummer for a while there. He passed away last year, but he was a fantastic drummer, right? D.H. played in several bands, did a short stint in the Dead Kennedys. Dead Milkmen, or The Dead Milkmen. Yeah, I love the Dead Milkmen. They've been with me for a very long time. I think that was my first punk show. I saw the Dead Milkmen way back, I think in '88. Yeah, Rodney Anonymous, Joe Jack Talcum, Dave Blood, rest in peace. Dean Clean on drums. Of course, today Dan Stevens plays bass with them. They're still making music. They got a new album out. I heard a little bit of it, but here I just have I have the first 4 albums. Of course, yeah, Big Lizard I got here, and then yeah, Beelzebubba, Bucky Fellini, Eat Your Paisley, just all fantastic. Which one's the best? I don't know. They're all so classic. Beelzebubba is kind of like a masterpiece in a way, the way I see it. But Dead Milkmen, check out their channel. Dead Milkmen have a channel. They do a weekly video. They talk about lots of different topics and stuff. And it's funny, it's entertaining. I can't recommend that channel enough. Yeah, so here we have, on my phone I have this Lee Hazelwood record where so many different people are on it. So my Power Amp app just lists them all as separate artists. Deanna Martin, Dean Martin's daughter. She sings on this song here. Yeah, Baby I See You. Deanna Martin, like I said, Dean Martin's daughter. It's like Lee Hazelwood works with the children of a lot of famous singers. But that's that. Death of Samantha. Death of Samantha. What do we have here? Yeah, John Petkovic, Doug Gillard, Steve-O, David James. Yeah, Strong on Jargon is the only one I have on here. I had Laughing in the Face of a Dead Man EP where they do a version of the Warren Zevon song, Werewolves of London. Great cover. Death of Samantha, great Cleveland post-punk. You know, what can I say about them? We'll move on here. Death Row. One word, Death Row. This is German thrash. I got this in junior high school as well. Raging Steel, you know. Again, I have it for sentimental value because it just reminds me of the time where I had it on cassette. Yeah, German thrash from the 80s. You know, they have a few albums out. I just have this one, Raging Steel, whatever. Daedalus, or Daedalus, I don't know. Italian, Canterbury-influenced prog band from the 70s. They have a handful of albums out. This is their debut. Absolutely fantastic. A lot of it reminds me of Hatfield in the North. By their second album, they got way more experimental and more in the rock and opposition vibe there. Yeah, I can't really say I remember the title. It's pretty long in Italian and I can't pronounce it, so I'll have it here, right here.
Materiale per 3 esecutori e nastro magnetico.
Something like that. But the first album, fantastic, great artwork there too. Okay, Deep Purple, another band I don't need to say so much about. I got quite a few records here, probably more than I really need, more than I listen to. Yeah, the first few with Rod Evans on vocals. Yeah, Rod Evans we talked about in the Seas with Captain Beyond. And then Ian Gillan joined them by the time In Rock came out, probably their best album. Machine Head, also considered their best album, but it's a toss-up. They're both great records. Who Do We Think We Are? Yeah, that's not so good. And then, yeah, and then David Coverdale joined them later for Burn, which is okay. Stormbringer I have on here just because I like the album cover. Not a fantastic album. And then I go all the way up to Perfect Strangers, I got I got that on vinyl in grade school. I was a big Deep Purple fan, and I thought, oh, gotta have the new one. The classic lineup's getting back together. Not such a great album. A couple okay songs on it. You know, I mean, you get Roger Glover, John Lord, Ian Pace, Ian Gillan, and of course, Ritchie Blackmore. So had to see what they were going to do at that time, and they did okay. But yeah, the earlier stuff, the '60s stuff, and rock and Machine Head, of course, are the essentials. Folk Implosion, or here Deluxe Folk Implosion, as they're also known as. I just have their cover of the "I'm Just a Bill" song from the Schoolhouse Rock's cover album. Who do we have here? Lou Barlow, John Davis. Folk Implosion.
I'm Rita Rao, but they call me Wow. I gave up bad boys, and I gave up city noise, and I gave up cheap joys. And I return to nature. Papella, refreshing return to nature. Delicious goodness of big fat apples, refreshing goodness of fresh juicy apples. Papella, refreshing return to nature.
Dennis Wilson, drummer from Beach Boys. Yeah, Pacific Ocean Blue, fantastic album, great drum sound. Bamboo is kind of just a collection of songs, but Pacific Ocean Blue is a wonderful Beach Boys solo record there. Derek Bell from the Chieftains. Again, here I just have this because it's on the Barry Lyndon soundtrack, so it's good. Traditional Irish music there. Deru, not sure how to pronounce it. It's Benjamin Wynn, electronic artist. Here he has an album, 1979. That was the year he was born. But this is some of the greatest electronic music I've heard. I don't listen to a lot of electronic music, but this is a really, really fantastic record. Next, Deuter. Who's Deuter? It's Georg Deuter. It's not necessarily krautrock. He's labeled as New Age, but that label comes much later, more in the 80s, right? This is more psychedelic, experimental, kind of sounds like Brain Ticket. It's meditative, kind of, this music. This one came out in '72. It's called Aum. It is a great record, though. Great, almost kind of soundtracky music. Wonderful. Okay, here we have Du Fil. My French accent is horrible, but it's okay. These guys aren't French anyway. It's two guys. Du Fil, that's two girls, but it's two British guys. Silence and Wisdom. Great record they put out. It's 80s music, but it's kind of ahead of its time because it's not too 80s sounding. It reminds me of Idaho. I found out about these guys after Idaho, but the music is very much like Idaho. If you know about Idaho, we'll get to them in the eyes. But Du Fil, Simon Turner and Colin Tucker, a couple of British musicians. Simon Turner is an English composer. He does soundtrack music. He did the music to the movie Nadia, that vampire movie with Alina Löwenzahn. David Lynch produced. But anyway, they operate as Du Fil with two names, Claudine Kull and Gemini Fork. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but this is a terrific record. But really, really, really good. Really good. Okay, 60s British garage rock, or garage rock. I just have a few of their albums here. If you like garage rock from the 60s, this is your band. These guys are absolutely great. I have their self-titled third album on here twice. I think one's a vinyl rip, but it's so good I have it on here twice. Then I have Ptoof and Disposable. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Let's just move on, folks. Devo, Mark Mothersbaugh, Gerald Casale. yeah, I have more stuff, but these are some of my favorites here. Of course, Are We Not Men, produced by Brian Eno. Freedom of Choice, great record. Devo Live, great example of their early live shows. And of course, Hardcore Devo, some of the pre-album recordings of the early 70s, from 74 to 77, really lo-fi, experimental, some familiar songs on their early versions of Satisfaction and whatnot. Auto Modown, one of my favorites. Gotta have Devo, you just do. Dino, Desi, and Billy. Dino is Dean Martin Jr., again, a child of a famous singer working with Lee Hazelwood. Desi Arnaz Jr. And Billy Hinchy, who was also in the Beach Boys for a short time, is the son of Otto Doc Hinchy and Celia Bautista. I looked them up earlier, but now I forget who they are. But anyway, there's a song they got on the Lee Hazelwood record. Okay, let's get to Dinosaur, or Dinosaur Jr. Yeah, long been one of my favorite bands. Yeah, I got, of course, I got the essential first three original albums, the self-titled, You're Living All Over Me, Bug, then I go on to Green Mind, and yeah, the reunion albums. I don't go too far into the other Dinosaur stuff. Yeah, I got Whatever's Cool With Me. Here's a great 7-inch here. The Fort Apache Studios, recorded in January of '89, features a great version of Quest. If you can get your hands on one of these 7-inches, that's well worth having. But yeah, Jay Mascis, Lou Barlow, Murph. A better trio is pretty hard to come by. There are plenty, but they're one of the greatest. Again, not on all the Dino albums, but yeah, Dino fans know that. Okay, Dio, Ronnie James Dio, just got the first solo record here, Holy Diver, with Vinny Appice and Vivian Campbell. A great lineup, great classic metal album from the 80s, great vocals, naturally. Dio, what can I say about Dio that you don't already know? The Dixie Cups, a song here, Going to the Chapel, featured on the Full Metal Jacket soundtrack. The Dixie Cups, yeah, a trio of women singing this classic old pop song from the 60s, The Chapel of Love. Okay, Django Reinhardt, master guitar player. Love Django Reinhardt, the Romani Belgian guitarist. Yeah, I just have the collection on here that has so many great songs that he plays on. I love Django Reinhardt. He's just one of the greatest jazz guitarists out there, one of the greatest guitarists, period, in my opinion. I love his playing. Yeah, more I don't really need to say about him. It's Django Reinhardt, legend, just a complete legend. Dollar Brand. Who's Dollar Brand? Abdullah Ibrahim, great jazz musician, pianist. I have a couple of his records on here. The Children of Africa. Of course, he's from South Africa. Underground in Africa. Both phenomenal records. Some of the best jazz music out there. Love Dollar Brand. Dollar Brand. Love it. Dome. This is kind of a German folk band. Folk, psychedelic, early kraut. Edge of Time. One and Done record. They only existed from 69 to 72, and they released one record. This is it, right here. Edge of Time. I recommend it. It's great folk. I don't listen to a lot of folk music from the 60s, 70s, but this is a really interesting record. I dig it. Dominique Guillot, French electronic musician here. How to pronounce this? L'Univers de la Mer. This is wonderful, wonderful electronic music. 70s electronic music. It's definitely a different flavor than electronic music that came later. This is very unique. It would make great video game music. Not that video game music is so great. It can be, though. There's a lot of great video game music composers out there. I think this is even better. And it would fit really well into like a fantasy game or something. But this is another great electronic album. Like I said, I don't listen to a lot of electronic music. I have it here peppered throughout my collection. This is one of the best, without a doubt. Don Caballero, yeah, Pennsylvanian instrumental math rock band. American Dawn, one of their best albums. Yeah, I just got a couple of them. They have many more releases than this. I had a 7-inch in the 90s. I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, really great. If you like math rock, these guys are one of the best. Don Cherry. He is very Cherry. One of my absolute favorite jazz musicians, Brown Rice. Probably my favorite, but Om Shanti Om. Not a typical Don Cherry album, but one of the most extremely spiritual albums I've ever heard. I highly recommend Om Shanti Om. But first, get into the more traditional Don Cherry jazz albums here. I got all kinds of great stuff. Of course, he's from Oklahoma, but he spent a lot of time in Sweden, where he got married to the Swedish artist. What's her name? She's the mother of Nena Cherry. So yeah, Don Cherry gave the name to Nena Cherry. Buffalo Stance, right? That's what that is. But it's not his daughter, stepdaughter. Doesn't matter. I'd take the name Cherry too. So it's Don Cherry, legend. Love Don Cherry Symphony for improvisers. Amazing. I got the first and second part of the Moo albums. Blue Lake. God, this stuff is so good. You know, he plays his pocket trumpet. It sounds like a regular trumpet, but that little trumpet looks kind of weird. Put it in your pocket.
Keep it in the pocket.
He's a master of that. Master of Orient, also a great Don Cherry record. More Don Cherry here with Krzysztof Penderecki. Talked about him before, where he's on the. Well, no, we didn't talk about him yet. We talked about another piece of the Shining soundtrack. But he's on. Penderecki's also on the Shining soundtrack. But here he did an album with Don Cherry. That's amazing. It's like they fuse their sounds perfectly together. Actions. Killer record. Very awesome. Donna Butterworth was an actress. I guess she's known for Paradise Hawaiian Style. She was in that movie with Elvis. But here she sings on this Lee Hazelwood record. What's the song here? California Sunshine Boy. Another interesting tune there. Okay, Doug Gillard. So we talked about Death of Samantha earlier, and we talked about Cobra Verde in the last How's My Phone episode. Doug Gillard here, of course. Great collaboration with Robert Pollard here. Speak kindly of your fire department, of your volunteer. Speak kindly of your volunteer fire department, lest they let your house burn down. This is kind of pre-Lifeguards in a way. So like the way, like the Giles and Fripp album, it's like kind of predates King Crimson. Speak kindly of your volunteer fire department predates Lifeguards, kind of in the same way. That's kind of how I relate the two. This is a wonderful modern rock album. I mean, modern rock. It's from 1999, but I love this record. You know, slick as snails, with that amazing Gillard guitar work. All these songs are just fantastic. Tight Globes. Man. Yeah, Gillard and Pollard, great musical team there. Okay, here's Chin.
Gesundheit.
Not necessarily krautrock, but they are a German band. This is more kind of classic rock oriented, but really, really great. It's a self-titled album. It's the only album I believe they released. This came out in the 70s, I think in 1972. I'm not sure, I can't remember now. But it's, yeah, this is mostly hard rock, but it is really, really great stuff and totally underrated and just sort of lost out there in the sea of classic rock albums from the 70s. But this is a standout, I think. Okay, Dwayne Eddy, famous guitarist. Here he does a song on the, or actually does a few songs here on this Lee Hazelwood collection. Also with Miriam Eddy, which is Jesse Coulter, his wife. Yeah, good stuff. Oh yeah, here's the one he does with Miriam Eddy. Yeah, Guitar on My Mind. Oh geez, no kidding, Dwayne. All right. Dukes of the Stratosphere. This is XTC tripping out on their psychedelic edge. They're doing more psychedelic music. Their side project here. I just have the Chips from the Chocolate Fireball collection. It combines the 25 O'Clock EP with the Sonic Sunspot album. I love XTC, and I love the Dukes of the Stratosphere. They're equally great in my book. I wish they had done more as Dukes of the Stratosphere. What can I say? What can I say? I can say what can I say a few more times. Okay, lastly here we have Jan. Wonderful. Killer. German trio. It's jazz rock. Yeah, Eddie Marin, Reinhard Karwatki, Peter Giger. I got their 3 albums and SWF Studios sessions here. They did Live Mandala, which is my favorite album. I tend to gravitate towards Time Machine. But the other albums are really great. Electric Silence, the self-titled. These guys are way talented, and it's a shame we didn't get more from these guys. There is more out there, but these are kind of like the main releases here. But I had to have them on my phone. So yeah, that's the D's, kids. That is the D's. So yeah, next up is the letter E, obviously, starting off with Eddie Cochran, Einstürzen in Neubauten, ELO, Elvin Jones, my goodness, Emmylou Harris, Eno, etc. The X, great punk band from the Netherlands. Yeah, looking forward to that one. So, thanks for sticking it out for the D's, kids. So, yeah, we will see you next time on the letter E. So, like, subscribe, get weird. I'm going to go back down here. I'll see you later.
Boom.